welcome back to the Culture Based Podcast. I'm Dustin, he's Blake. The show that the Onion calls exists.
I don't think they're even doing that yet.
Well, they should be.
They should be.
They should be. We're pumped to get into today's episode with you. I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I normally don't read the kind of the hook paragraph until after we get through all the business, but I'm gonna do the hook, then the business. Right? I'm gonna do the hook, then I'm gonna show you the business, which is a reason to be watching on YouTube, and then we'll actually get into the show. But today is going to be about nudges, motivations, and manipulation. I can't wait. We've all had a case of the Mondays, or we struggled to get past the hump of Wednesdays. But how do you urge your team to push through to greatness, not the greatness, when they may not be feeling it? Today we'll get into nudges, motivations, and manipulations. But before we do, I want to remind you that the Culture Base is here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop a scalable team to get there. If you're listening to this on an audio podcast platform, welcome. We're so glad you're listening. We would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and review. Help get this content out further to those like you who could benefit from it. If you're watching on YouTube, hello there. We're so glad that you're here. We'd love for you to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all those types of things so that you're notified every time we drop new video content, which this podcast comes out every Tuesday, but we're also dropping content there on our social media and on YouTube every Wednesday and Thursday. And speaking of social media, you can follow us at The Culture Base, BASE. We're on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere you want us to be. We're like MasterCard, really. Isn't that what MasterCard's phrase used to be there for a long time?
I think so.
Everywhere you want to be, until Capital One came over and started being real invasive about what's in my wallet, which my son always goes, none of your business, every time that commercial comes on.
That's awesome.
Jennifer Gardner goes, what's in your wallet? He goes, none of your beeswax. Which
I respect that.
Which my son in his wallet, it's pretty much nothing. We got him a Cash App card because he turned 13. So
cool.
It's a good time. Anyway, also, if you'd like to find out more about us or book a free call with us, you can do that at theculturebase.com/strategy. We'd love to chat with you. Hop on our calendar. Free 30-minute sesh.
Slide into our DM.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's what the kids say. I think that's all of the business. It is March 12th. We're almost to St. Patty's Day, right?
And March Madness.
Let's not luck our way into this episode. How's that? Yeah, March Madness is really the only reason that March should exist. The NCAA tournament. Otherwise, what good is March? Doesn't really do anything for me. Everybody out there getting drunk on green beer. I'm just trying to watch some basketball.
That's right. Get a vasectomy and go watch some basketball. You know what I'm saying? That's
what they say. If you're going to get the V,
I don't get it done like that, but
I don't think so either. If you're going to get it, they say to do it in March Madness. And that is a brilliant tactic.
Yeah.
But that's not what today is about. Today's about a different kind of nudge. Maybe you're being nudged into getting a vasectomy and you don't want to. This episode's for you.
Oh, man.
But essentially what we're talking about here is that it's pretty difficult to get people to do the things that you want them to do, especially when they don't want to do it or they're not feeling it. So that's what we're going to get into today, because part of culture is understanding how your team works and how your team is motivated and how to get the results out of your team that you want to without becoming a type of culture that you may not want to become. Yeah. So I think it's important, Blake, maybe you can share a story of how hard it's been to get people to do the right things, but we definitely want to get into this manipulation word pretty early as well. What do you think?
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to get people to do the right things. And why that's so hard is, first off, what is the definition of right thing in that moment, right? Like, and that's what gets challenging here. And so I think when we think about like, what is manipulation? Manipulation is this idea of like trying to influence or control someone by doing something like clever or it just in a way that you're trying to get them to do the thing you want to do. Okay. Like at a base level, that's what manipulation is. You're trying to get someone to do the thing you want them to do. There's a dark side of that, right? Like the dark side of manipulations where like people are doing that in deceptive ways to get their benefit, right? Like I'm going to be in a dark way manipulating Dustin to do what I want because I want said thing and I can get it by using him and by using him in a certain way, but it is all focused on self gain. There is a positive side of manipulation. Like even the dollar is a form of manipulation, right? There is a you want to work? That's great. Here's the dollar amount I'll pay you per hour or salary to do said thing. There's a certain level of manipulation there. We talk all the time how we think if that's your only form of manipulation, by the way, or you're using the dollar to manipulate to keep people on your team, that's a really bad way to try to manipulate or to try to keep people on your team when there are other things you can be doing that are a positive aspect that is not just about getting them to do the right thing or the thing I want them to do, but it is more about getting them to do the right thing because it's the right thing for the team. It's the right thing for the organization. It's the right thing for the person. And I don't think we hear the word manipulation and we go dark really quick. And the thing that this good type of manipulation is a nudge. Okay. It's nudging them in the right direction. If I say, hey, you probably make 10, I don't know if it's true to say, you probably make 10,000 decisions a day in your head, right? Like we have 60,000 thoughts. It's not, and there is no, like, please don't look that up. It's wrong. But we have 60,000 thoughts a day, right? If out of those thoughts, you're probably making decisions probably 1/6 of the time. You're making some thought, you're responding, I'm not going to do. Like even not doing something, it is a decision, right? So you're going through those thought processes as you're doing it. I'm going to tell you, and I feel way more confident in this than the number, that you're doing all of that out of emotion or out of some natural response or out of some neural pathway response that you've come up with because it's been safe and protected throughout your time. You're very pragmatic. I'm pragmatic. We're all pragmatic in the fact that what we do generally is because it's worked before in the past, right? When we come to nudges, it's about helping people get outside of those things that they've just naturally done and helping them to maybe just stop for a second, to come to a point in decision making where they're stopping and they're actually evaluating. Because a lot of times we just are on autopilot. We don't realize it, but we are. Do you have something there?
Yeah, I think the difference between the manipulation and the nudge, which the motivation is really kind of what we're after at the end of the day. I like the way we've titled this podcast episode because nudges can be a little passive aggressive,
Sure.
and and manipulation can undermine the both parties involved. But motivation in the middle, I think, is where the real thriving happens. I think where we talk about manipulation undermines trust and respect for each individual in that situation. Motivation pumps up, not with a false narrative, but with a true narrative of here's the reality of the situation, but we can also overcome this together. You're not alone. I'm not alone. We're in this thing together. It's not a motivation of go out there and do it or else. That's manipulation. It's not a, hey, it would be great if you could maybe get that done today. That's a nudge. That's passive aggressive in my mind. So I think what we're looking at here today really is the motivation. And to just let you know, various sources suggest that the average adult makes 33,000 to 35,000 total decisions each day. So you said 60.
That
I
was
mean,
60,000 thoughts a day.
oh, okay. I'm not sure how many.
And so I said, I think that it's like 1/6,
You said
so 10,000.
that's right. You said 10,000 decisions. That's
Yeah.
what you said. So it's actually 3 times as much.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's
That's
nuts.
crazy. Well, and I like the way you just put that. The one thing I think that we got to like maybe clarify here is nudges may be passive aggressive and manipulation may be very forward, but they're all tools within a tool pouch and they need to be used at different times. And
Sure.
they're not bad in those times because I think it's easy to demonize manipulation and to just say, like, oh, well, nudges are passive aggressive and so they're not good. That's not true. There are times that it's important to offer both of those things. Think
Mm-hmm.
about a kid growing up, or think about a Gen Z entering the workforce. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to not manipulate, but very clearly state it's this or nothing else, right? And then there are going to be times that you're like, instead of just outright stating this, I do need to put it as a nudge because they're not in a place to learn and hear from good motivation right now. They're in a place that they're still using their automatic brain. And so I need to put nudges in place that start to change their response in their automatic brain. And once that happens, I can start speaking to motivation to get them to start doing the right things. Okay. So,
Yeah.
but I do think there is a good process to get people to do things. And I know that sounds like, can you really get anyone to do things? No, you really can't make someone do anything.
Right. The thing that
Every
I tell my
person.
kids all the time is that there's only one thing you can control in life. It's yourself and your own responses.
That's
No
it.
matter how badly you want someone else to act, behave, say, do a certain thing or a certain way, there's only so far you can do that, right? And then, unless violence takes hold, and even then, it's not a true
No,
act of them doing or saying what it is that you want them. They're being manipulated and threatened into doing. It's like you coming to one of your employees and say, like, hey, look, man, you either do this or I find someone else to do it, and you're out on the street.
yeah.
That's a threat,
Hmm.
and it's a form of manipulation, but
Yep.
it's a threat.
Hmm.
That does not set the type of culture that we want
No,
at the end of the day.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. But there is like, if you ever want to hear me get preachy with my kids, and they hate it. They hate it so much when they're like, oh, well, so and so made me do it. I'm like, and then they're like, oh shit,
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
shouldn't have said that. I'd rather just
Yeah.
been honest and gotten in trouble than to hear
Yeah.
this diatribe from dad. And I'm like, listen,
Every time, no one makes you do anything.
yeah, exactly. But it's true. And the reality is we all haven't grown out of that. We all
Mm-mm.
feel like it's true that someone made me do something, and it's just not. But since we can't get anyone to do anything, I had a coach kind of walk me through this one time. He talked about how his coach helped him because his kid wasn't brushing their teeth at a certain point in time. And he said no matter what he did, if he threatened to take away things, the kid wouldn't brush their teeth. If he went and, tried to motivate in good ways of like, hey, I'm going to bribe the hell out of you to brush your teeth, still wouldn't work. It didn't create this longevity. And so his coach told him, he said, there's really three aspects here. There's empathy, there's consequences, and there's autonomy. Okay. So what you do is you come up and you say, let's say it's little Johnny. Hey, little Johnny. I don't like brushing my teeth either. And now that I think about it, like, who really just likes brushing their teeth? It takes time. It pulls you out of doing the fun things you want to be doing. Okay, so there, right there, empathy. You get on their level and you share that. Like, I don't really like doing it either. And instead of being like, but you gotta, you don't go there. Instead, go, can I just show you like some of the consequences of what it looks like to not brush your teeth? And then you share all those horrible pictures of teeth. And these are people who didn't brush their teeth. And here's what's at stake. Like, if you don't want to brush your teeth, don't brush your teeth. But I'm letting you know, like, here's what's gonna happen. And you find the best ones. Like, don't find like a little yellowing and stuff. You find like where very clearly someone got like punched in the mouth, but you don't tell the kid that. Like, that's just bad. You didn't brush their teeth and there's blood everywhere. They're like, oh my gosh. And then instead of being like, so brush your teeth, put it in their court. Autonomy and ownership is when people feel like they are in control. And the problem with manipulation, because it's so visual or like obvious, is you don't feel like you're in control. Nudges are a little better because you're like, oh, that was my idea. Maybe, but this is where you say, so what do you think? What do you think we should do? And then he said that he went through that process with this kid, and his kid ran upstairs, didn't even answer the question, and just started brushing their teeth because they took ownership of the thing. So that's the thing, is when you're trying to motivate and use nudges or any type of manipulation, if the idea isn't at the end for them to have ownership in the result of what they're doing, it's not going to be changed behavior. That's a big part right there. So we have to have this empathy. You get on their level. You have to share the consequences, and maybe not a like obviously it's a biased perspective, but not in a like you better, because it's more just like, hey, I'm just sharing facts. And then they are going to have ownership by helping them, have that autonomy. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts there?
I love it. I'm using that tactic for starters. That's gold. So, lastly, I find it so funny. The autonomy piece at the end. This is just me stepping out on a little comedic rant here for a second. This has no value to the topic at all, but I just love when you get to the empathy part. You're like, oh man, that really is. Yeah, it is hard, isn't it? Brushing your teeth. But hey, look what happens. If you don't do it. And then the final thing is the kind of the hands in the air, backing away, going, "But hey, man, you do you."
You do you.
I just love here's what could happen. But hey, that's not me. It's your call at the end of the day. That's funny to me. But yeah, I like what you're saying about nudges, and it reminded me of one of our conversations from last week when we were talking about setting boundaries. I think the nudges are those guardrails, right?
Yeah.
That they can just be like, oh, yep, not there. We're rounding the corner here. This is a sharp turn, a little bit of a warning sign, a little bit of a hey, nudge back in. We're refining back into vision. We're refining back into mission, to strategy, the things that we said we were going to do. Those are those gentle nudges. But Blake, when do you know it's the right time to step in for nudges or motivation?
Yeah. So I think it all has to do with the person's ability to hear and respond. That's when like, is somebody in need of a nudge, which is I'm putting something in place that their automatic brain will pick up and respond to, or are they in a place that they've been able to come to a decision and stop and like get a good lay of the land? And if they can get a good lay of the land, then you can speak into that. If they are not at a place where they can do that yet, this is where you want to start having nudges, okay? Like putting those things in place. Like even keeping good metrics for business. Like it's great to make sure you're making good decisions, but they're also good nudges. When you've got to go to your executive team or your leadership team and report a number that you're either doing well at or you're not, that nudge and that I'm going to have to report this, and you're weekly seeing that number is pushing you to do something, and hopefully pushing you to go do the right things, right? So, and not that we try to only push by numbers, but it's a form of nudges. So that's what I say is it's got to be, are they in a place that they can hear, or are they not in a place and they're just responding out of automatic mind? I think we put these things in place, like I said, our metrics that we have, but also like New Year's resolutions that we put into place. It's a nudge to go do something. And our New Year's resolutions evil? No, they're about benefiting us and getting us to the right place. So I can jump into a couple different types of nudges, just like, because I know it gets really hard to be like, is that a nudge? Is that manipulation? I think if you're like wanting, like even in family, you're wanting to set up good nudges for your kids or for you. Setting healthy examples. Like if you're not doing it, first off, nobody else is going to do it. If you're trying to be like, hey kids, like let's be healthy, and you're like wiping off Lay's grease on your shirt as you're like, oh, you got to be healthier. Like that's not going to do it. Like you need to actually have example here. If you're encouraging your family, or you're like, gosh, you guys, why aren't you telling me these things when that happens? Why aren't you being honest and open? Well, this is why we have nudges like family meetings. And those might sound corny as hell to people. I don't care. Like, you want to intentionally have a good relationship with your family, have some of these things in place. And when instead of being like, why hasn't anyone ever talked to me about these things? Well, do you have a time for that? Do you have a time where people feel safe and open that they can have these conversations and share opinions, share thoughts, share hesitations. I mean, those are things we put in place. Or you want people in your family to start eating better, maybe not having just a whole bunch of fun pack of Skittles everywhere. Maybe have fruit laying out there. You want to change behavior, change the automatic cues.
Yeah, change the environment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And nudges really are environment, right? Like it's a lot of what your cultural environment is. And so how are you putting cues up in place? This is, we've talked about in process before, and I don't know how far we've dug into this, but in processes, 4 parts of good process being the process, the course, the visual, and what else was there? The checklist, right?
Yeah.
So like those are those 4 parts. Well, the visual is just like, hey, this is the visual process. And all it is a cue. It's a nudge to like, oh, did I think about these things? You don't always pull the checklist out, but if you visually see something in your team's area that's up on a wall, good branding, right? Talked about this a couple weeks ago or last week. Oh, it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Then you're visually creating a nudge. Did I check everything? Did I do the right things? So having these things in place, you want your team to be healthy, right? You want your, like, hey, we want to have good insurance that we're not paying an arm and a leg for, and everyone feels good about this. Well, we got to be healthy. And to just go, hey, guys, we got to get healthy, and we're going to create this, like The Office, the lose as much weight as possible. Yeah, the Biggest Loser thing they did. And then people started passing out and keeling over. It wasn't good. It wasn't healthy, but having things.
Kelly ate a tapeworm.
But in all reality,
I can feel
it. That wasn't a tapeworm. But in all reality, it's like putting into place wellness programs, and not ones that are like, I created a process and passed it out to everyone. Okay, nobody's reading that. Okay. But being like, hey, we're going to pay for X amount of your gym membership, or we're going to, like, our team offers gym memberships after you've been with us a certain amount of time. And so what are we doing? We're motivating people to not have a reason to not be healthy, right? Like we're trying to cut down on all the trash automatic talk that goes on in your head. These type of nudges help cut that down.
Yeah.
You can have that.
Yeah, and you're setting your company up for long-term success, because people will want to be around people that care about them, right? That's just basic human psychology. And so if you care enough about your team to provide these motivations for them, then they will want to stick around. And when they stick around, they'll be happier and healthier. And guess what happier and healthier team members do? They produce excellence, and they produce it on a scale, right? They produce it to a sense that it can be scalable. And that's what we're talking about here at the end of the day, is creating this culture where you can build scalable teams. And one of the best ways to do that is to provide the right motivations and set up the right nudges.
Yeah. And maybe here's a good example of manipulation versus nudge in the business side. You want people to give good output and to grow within your company. And a manipulator could look like this. As you're having a review with them, I really want to pay you more, but I really need you to get better at what you're doing. And so once you get better, I'll pay you more. Okay, manipulator. A good nudge. Hey, we have a good work development process that it looks like your next step is to go from this position to this position. And here's what it looks like in a growth process for us to get there. Okay, you got to be able to hit these things. We've actually created a development program for you to go through so that you come out on the other side knowing how to do these things, at least at another level that you can start producing. So we're going to have you go through this. We're really excited for this to happen. Okay, that's a nudge. That's a nudge, and showing these things are open and available for them to go start producing. The other one was a manipulator, because what you're trying to do is manipulate them to do the thing you want by dangling a carrot. Okay. If you don't have something to help them get to that carrot, and it's always going to be out farther in front of them, they're going to leave. Okay. That's not a clear plan. That's a manipulation. Okay. So that's what we have to identify is, if what you're pushing them to do, if there's no plan behind it, chances are it's a manipulation. Okay. If it's a just do if this, then that kind of thing, probably
Mm,
is a manipulation.
that's a good indicator. I like that. If this then that, it's probably leaning towards manipulation. That's a really good indicator. Like, is there? I have some books that I wanted to recommend towards the end of our time together today. But did you have anything else that you wanted to say about nudges and motivations and manipulations?
I don't think so. I think that's
Cool.
kind of like quantified it all.
Yeah, I like a lot of the things. Just to recap some of the stuff that we said here. If this, then that. That's probably leaning towards a manipulation.
Mm.
Really love the brushing your teeth story that we told. Empathy, consequence, and autonomy. Those three things I think are probably the key to motivating people in the right way. And we're talking about setting up culture in the right way too. So I know that Blake's going to share a book or two with you, but I want to share these three books with you as well, just on this topic, because we often say that we don't have all the right answers. We've learned a lot of things along the way from our own mistakes and our own success, but we've also learned from other people as well. And so some of those people have wrote some books, and so I want to share those with you. The Emotionally Healthy Leader by Peter Scazzaro, I think is how you say his last name. And then Five Dysfunctions of a Team by our boy Patrick Lencioni.
Lencioni.
Lencioni. And then my guy John Gordon, the king of the short parable book, Stick Together, is a great book on these topics of motivations and doing things the right, healthy way. What do you got for him, Blake?
Yeah, the one that probably hits real well with what
Spawned.
we're talking about is Nudge. Yep, that's what the book's called, is
It's
Nudge.
called Nudge.
It is by
I love it.
Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein.
Mm.
Great book. It definitely hits on some financial aspects, though, just like changing motivation. But as I was reading it, I couldn't not see it in like just everything and the way
Yeah.
we try to get people to do things and change perspectives. So really good.
Yeah. I love it. Well, great episode, Blake. And I think this will help a lot of people when they're trying to set the ideal culture. Next time, we're going to be with you on bringing in outside help. We're going to call it When to Cry Help. And so we can't wait to talk to you about that on episode 36. We'll talk to you next time on the Culture Base Podcast.